Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in on this Tuesday, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by our great friends at the Wow Club. Make sure you go into your app store and look up the Wow Club, and join up, because Wow Club members get a lot of great benefits. Looking forward to helping you out with that as well. All those great places here in and around Bloomington. Wow Club members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more sent directly to your mobile phone. The Wow Club. Hey, welcome aboard. Kevin Brockway from CNHI with us. How's it going?
It's interesting April day here in Indiana and Bloomington, and of course, Ali Papper gets drafted last night, WNBA draft. Congratulations to her! And the big news over the weekend with Trace Jackson Davis putting his name in the NBA draft, and has until June 1st to pull back, which is obviously some anxious times, I guess, for Hoosier Nation deciding what he's going to do and what you do to replace him if he leaves.
Well, you replace him. You go into the portal and you find the baddest man and you replace him. But I've got to be honest with you, and it's not because I think I know more than anybody else or I know something. I don't. I just think that I don't see him. I see him coming back. I don't see his path, and I've said this over and over. May look like an idiot, but I just don't think that his path is, not for this season at least, is to the NBA. And there's nothing else that's going to pay him other than going to Europe, as much as the NIL will pay him. The NIL will pay him more than the G League. So I just, and we saw him mention himself that if he's not in like the 30-something, I've never seen a single draft board to put him there. So I just don't see him not coming back personally.
NBADraft.net had him 33 to the Pacers. So that was 3 out of the first round, which I thought was somewhat interesting. And, obviously a hometown pick too.
And very much of an anomaly. I mean, no one else has him inside of the 50s, do they?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say at this point because I know that, Draft Express, sometimes I look at them and they're very reputable. And they're behind a paywall now with ESPN. So if you want to shell out the bucks, I can look it up for you. But I think that, the opinion is going to be mixed. He's going to go through the workouts. He'll flash his athleticism for sure, which will be his calling card. But still no perimeter jumper to speak of. Unless he really shows it in these workouts. And, at 6'9", 245, I mean, you can't play back to the basket in the NBA at that size. So you have to show some face-up skills, some perimeter skills, and ability to finish with both hands, which I think he improved on this year, but maybe not to the extent of, being reliable at the next level. So there's still some weaknesses in his game. And, if you can come back and get the NIL money, why not? Cement your name in the record books, build off what you did last season. But maybe he also thinks, hey, he's kind of an older junior, right? He's about 21, 22. Maybe he thinks the time is right now to develop, because sometimes you get that stigma when you're older going into the NBA as well, and it hurts your draft stock down the road.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. This used to be pretty standard age-wise, but now you're looked at as somewhat old. But we'll see. Jennifer says, thank you for mentioning the interview with Mike Lewis yesterday. Thank you very much. Michael Lewis, or Mike jumping on the music man, saying, hey. Kevin says he's seen Trace at 44 on some boards. There's just too many names that I've seen that I'm like, wow, I just can't see him taking him before them. But we'll I'm not a GM. We will certainly see. And of course, like you just said, there's a lot of importance. Forget about what we've seen over the last 3 years. A lot that goes on during those workouts determines a lot. An unbelievable. I mean, probably it's 50%, probably at least. Wouldn't you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, the scouts use it. I mean, evaluation, but I mean, they take into account that you could have good days and bad days also, and they can take into account that. I think they look at the regular season as well. You look at the whole body of work. You look at the analytics, what that tells you. You try to project, I think, upside on certain guys as well, depending on when you pick them. Well, obviously, if you're picking a guy in the late first and early second round, you can turn around and say, hey, look, we don't expect this guy to step in right away. It's great if he does, but what's he going to look like in 2 or 3 years down the line, and is it worth investing in? And can we stash him away in the G League for the year for him to get better? Don't forget too, and I think Trace is a kid that genuinely he enjoys school and he enjoys that aspect of it. He strikes me as the kind of kid that, he goes to class, he's responsible. We haven't seen any monkey business from him in 3 years, unlike some other IU players. But I think too, there's something to be said for not having that academic burden and just being able to work on your game all the time. And, that's what that would afford him if he left early. Even if he went to the G League, he could really work and refine on his game and really turn the focus totally 100% to his game. And that's sometimes why players leave because of that aspect of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I talk about that as well a lot. But at the end of the day, like I said, now everyone, the recruiting still going on. Indiana offers Liam McNeely, a 6'7" kid out of Plano, Texas. I don't see with the offers that he has. I'm like, that's going to be a tough get. He's got offers from Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, places like that. I'm like, man, be really difficult to get that kid out of Texas. I would think so. But also, I noticed yesterday an offer to the kid from West Virginia who's in the transfer portal, 3-point shooter, shot 36%, 37% from 3-point, shot most of their 3-point shots last year, I think. And that's right there. That's an intriguing spot. Indiana has an open scholarship right now. It just makes you wonder. They're trying to get Malik Renault, so
yeah, as well, but you could have 2 open spots if Trace leaves. So, I think that perimeter shooting, I mean, it's never ending, right? It's what you need. You thought Parker Stewart was going to fill the bill last year. He shot the ball well in non-conference, not so well in conference. Miller Kopp, another guy that you're hoping that is going to be able to do pretty well. Did not pan out, so you need those shooters.
Absolutely. Sean asked, do we expect Geronimo and Reyes to publicly state they are returning, or will we continue to sit and wait to confirm their return? Well, first of all, they have dates of which that they get to, and you're looking at 2 different things here. Trace Jackson Davis has entered the NBA draft, so he has until the end of May, Kevin, to pull his name back out.
June 1st.
All right, pretty much into May. So June 1st so he can stay up through that time or leave his name in there, and it's a fact-finding mission.
Yeah.
Basically. But that does put Indiana in a precarious position. If he doesn't stay, they obviously have another spot open, but they need to fill that. Is someone like Malik Renault going to be around?
Yeah, and that's Malik Renault. I saw some rumblings about Miami and Florida State too, that he might stay in state as well. But I think he's intrigued by Indiana, by the tradition, by the history of it. But does he want to come to the cold when you have a chance to go to Miami and what Jim Larinaga did, getting him the Elite Eight, or what Leonard Hamilton has done at Florida State, and building that program? I think that's going to be interesting. He's a Miami kid, right? Charlie Miller. Brave the cold, came up here from Miami, about 20, 25 years ago. But Indiana, maybe the weather might not be for everyone, for those kids that are, grew up in Florida and are, used to that environment. So.
Sean says, how do you offer everyone if everyone is returning? Top priority seems to be Renault. So how do you continue to offer multiple kids? Well, a lot of these guys are for 23 and 24 kids. So make sure you're keeping the numbers there. But it's a tricky deal. It truly is. There's no lying about that. It's a balancing act.
There's always a scholarship available. You can always find a way to make a scholarship available. Coaches do that all the time.
Now, Bradley says something that I have always been trying to tell people. There is no such thing, and I used to be one of those people back in the day, but I've learned there's no such thing as he's not ready. Not coming from a fan. Fans are not allowed to say, or even someone in the media, not allowed to say he's not ready. You know who gets to say he's not ready? And the only people who gets to say he's not ready? The people in the NBA. If they draft him, he's ready. They think that they can do a better job training him, and they can. As Bradley says, the NBA could fix Trace Jackson's Davis's game better than IU can. Of course. Absolutely they can. And like Kevin said, he would be focusing on nothing but basketball, not class, not doing NIL stuff, whatever the case is, just basketball, just learning how to shoot a 10-foot jump shot. And yes, I would imagine that if NBA pros are working with you specifically, he's athletic enough. I've seen him shoot. It's not like he is devoid of shooting. So yes, I think that shot can be fixed. So while I think he's coming back, I don't know. We'll find out. But I think he is. I think that I just don't think that this year that there's enough room for him in the draft. I just don't. With what he's still looked, because he's still looked at as someone who they would have to work with. There may be enough guys in front of him that they don't have to work with nearly as much.
Watch guys in warm-ups, and we think that we watch guys hit shots and so forth, and we think, well, why can't they do that in the game? But there's a huge difference between shooting warming up and then shooting in game speed with the hand in your face, and I think that's the thing with guys like Trace, with guys like Miller Kopp, that you have to get that confidence in, and you have to develop and hone more through practice even than just shooting, or just having another guy there that's gonna push you. And make you make tough contested shots, or make you make shots when you're rushed and when you're hurried. I think that's the big aspect. And so ultimately, you talk about the NBA. Here's someone else that can fix Trace's shot. Trace, spend the time, do it. Get a partner. Do it in a certain way that's effective and efficient. Because it hasn't happened through the first 3 years. So there's got to be some personal accountability too.
Yeah, we've got plenty more. Sean says the whole team is in a holding pattern. Trace, Race, Geronimo. Do they have 1, 2, or 3 holes to fill? It's the same with everybody. So we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our good friends at the Wow Club. Make sure you go to your app store and sign up for the Wow Club. You can get that sent directly on your phone. Wow Club members earn discount dining dollars sent directly to your mobile phone. So make sure you jump on there and add that. We're back with a lot more Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're visiting
Here's Mike.
Look at him. He's fresh, ready to go into the game, man. He's got he's ready to play.
What's going on, guys?
How are you, sir? Rested
Doing
up?
well. How about you?
Cannot complain. Ready for the spring, man. I'm ready for it to warm up.
Yeah. Morning, Kev.
Morning. How was the Final Four?
It was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, the games were great. Hotel was right next door to the arena, which was good. Yeah, it was nice.
Did you stay? Was that the media hotel, or did you just pick out yours?
No, that was the media hotel was the Hyatt Regency, which is literally like a block away.
That's perfect.
Used to be it was like right next to it, but I think when the flood happened, I think they readjusted some things, changed where the lobby is and all that, but it was nice.
Did they have a good rate, or was it pretty high?
What's that?
Did they have a good rate, or was it pretty high?
It wasn't bad. It was like 250, 260. Yeah. San Francisco is where it was really high. So I didn't stay at the media hotel. I stayed at the airport. It was like 100, and the where I stayed, I think I saved like $600 staying at the airport as opposed to the media hotel.
Portland, I got something for like 150 a night, which wasn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Down by the river.
Uh-huh.
In a van?
Down by the river, right? Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here. Brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar in Bloomington. Great wines and cheese. Joined now by our good friend Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox and BTN. Fresh off of his trip from New Orleans, although we got to speak with him last week. What's the thing in New Orleans that everybody gets starts with a B?
Beignets.
Food item.
Beignets. Yes. As a matter of fact, I never went to Cafe Du Monde because on Thursday night, the great Malcolm Moran, who runs the U.S. Basketball Writers now, he's the executive director. They have we revived a tradition of what they call the past president's dinner. So anybody who's been a president in the past is invited. And so I was invited to that, and I went to that, and the food at the place was wonderful. And they set down at the end of the meal, they set down a plate with 2 beignets on it. Okay. And I said, okay, well, I'll eat some of that. And I ate the first part of the first one. And I'm like, I think I'm going to finish the first one. And then I thought that would be enough. And I said, no, maybe I'll eat the second half. I'll eat half of the second one. So I ate the half of the second one. No, I think I'm going to eat it all. That's how good they were. I mean, it was as famous as Cafe Du Monde is, and as wonderful as their beignets are, I've never had them better at this place. It was called Cork and Vine or something like that. It's right on Poydras Street. right in the middle of the main drag, right? Not, like maybe 2 blocks away from where we stayed at the Hyatt. It was just fabulous. The best beignets I ever had, and that's why I ate both of them.
Good food down there, man. I've been down there twice. Once was for the Sugar Bowl, which was fun. Mm-hmm. But great town, great. It's smaller than people think, especially now after Katrina. I mean, I don't know what their population is now, but I know it is much less than what it was. And but still a great little town. They just got hit by a tornado, which I couldn't believe that. I'm like, wow, isn't it bad enough that you got to deal with floods and hurricanes? You got to be in Tornado Alley too?
Yeah, when we were there, that was when the tornado went through. It was a little north of the city, downtown. So, I was out walking around on the Wednesday, which is when that storms hit, and it was the wind was nasty. It almost blew me down. Just walking on the street, it was amazing. I'd never been in anything quite like that.
Holy cow, man! But now the season's over, so we got to forget about it. Everyone gets to forget about it and go into summer. And no one's forgetting about anything. That's all they keep talking about. It's nonstop, which is great. I was looking at our schedule for the summer for all the basketball that is going on. It doesn't stop. It started in April, people.
Yes.
I'm talking about AAU, where all of the guys from the Hoosier.com and us have to go to watch guys. And I'm like, holy crap. It started in early April, and this thing goes until the back end of June, or July, rather, the very end of July. So it goes right into August, which is great. And I promise you, by then, there are going to be people just ready to strangle people for a vacation, because then you got football coming right in. It's like, holy smokes. But it just doesn't stop. And it seems like the attention is more now because of the transfer portal and NIL. You got everybody looking at everybody, who's going where. It's just somewhat makes it a little bit more fun to keep a scorecard. But if you're a fan, I'm sure it's not that fun, because you're sitting there wondering who's leaving, who can they get. But it's definitely a different mindset in the off season now.
Yeah, but here's some of the plus side of this, Jim, is that in the past, you wouldn't have any doubt that Trace was leaving. Even if you know that he's not going to get picked or picked in a reasonable spot, you'd say, that's it, he's done. He's played 3 years, he's gone. Now he might make some money staying at IU. So he might come back. Oscar Tshiebwe, reigning National Player of the Year, unanimous National Player of the Year, might come back. That would never have happened 5 years ago. That player would have been gone. Do you know how many players left college basketball to be either second round or undrafted players between, say, 2015 and 2021? I mean, it was hundreds. And they basically just, thought, if I stay here any longer, people are going to think so much less of me as a prospect, even though that was always a fallacy. They thought of you what they thought of you. And if you got better, they thought more of you. And if you didn't get any better, then they thought, okay, we were right. He wasn't going to get any better. But they didn't think less of you because they already didn't think that much. But that fallacy drove literally hundreds of players into the draft when they had eligibility remaining that was worth something. If it wasn't even worth anything more than, say, your free education and your cost of attendance money, it probably was still worth more than a year in the G League. But that's the way players were being conditioned to believe, mostly by agents that were trying to draw them into the draft. And so now they can't do that anymore. Because the player thinks, wait, you're telling me I'm going to go make $35,000 in Grand Rapids, and that's better than the $500,000 I'm making where I am now, or $250,000, or whatever it is. It obviously depends on the player and the market, et cetera. But they're all, they all have the opportunity to do well now, whereas before they didn't. So we're seeing players this past year. There's no way Kofi Coburn would have played for Illinois if it hadn't been for name, image, and likeness. It just wouldn't have happened. And so we're seeing more and more of that. More players come back. I think we'll see Hunter Dickinson back in the Big Ten next year. I think there's a good chance we'll see Trace. I think there's a very good chance we'll see Kofi Coburn, because where else is he going to go?
He's just not listed up high enough. That's what I'm trying to. There are so many guys that are up there, and the game is changing. A guy like Kofi back in the day he'd be gone for a couple of reasons, like you just said, but also because he's just a beast. But the game has changed.
Game's changed,
and he doesn't have a shot whatsoever.
Right. And he can't guard on the perimeter, and he's not a shot blocker. What they want in a big guy now is dynamism. That's what they're looking for. That's the first thing.
Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be an interesting experiment given his lack of physicality. But the idea that what Kofi was 10 years ago would have been a top 20 pick at least. Now he's basically undraftable. It's I don't know where he plays professionally after he gets done with Illinois, because don't forget what happens in the United States is basically being borrowed from the European game. That's why there are so many European big guys and the American big guy is still behind, because he's got to retrain himself to play differently in order to be a professional. And we've not done a good job in this country of training that player to be able to play at the NBA level, the 6'10" and above player. We just haven't done enough with retraining those players into being successful at that level.
And Kevin, this is Indiana's opportunity. They've had the mistakes have been administrative for the reasons that Indiana basketball is where it is now. We can go back years and talk about that stuff, but this is the grand opportunity that I think they have needed to just get back there quicker, because it has been season after season, it seems, of being one cycle off, of needing to have a one group stay a year longer. Well, now they can get that done with the NIL, basically, because Trace Jackson Davis can make more money in NIL than he can in a G League money. I promise you, and he already is probably. Mike alluded to that. So, and he was just announced as being one of the inaugural people in the Hoosiers for Good class that they've signed. We don't know how much that is for, but I was given a number for race, and if that is indeed accurate, there's no way that I can see people making those deals if those guys were not coming back. Now, Trace is not a given. If he were to get drafted in the top 30, he's gone. But there is no. Yeah, exactly. But there is nothing that I have seen that leads me to believe that is going to happen, Kevin.
Mike, I'm just curious about Mike's take on it in terms of, because, my take is obviously, we haven't seen the perimeter game. Now, does that mean that he's got it in his back pocket and he hasn't shown it? And maybe he could show it in workouts. I don't know. There's been conflicting stories about that. We've heard what Mike Woodson say, he's not confident in the shot. And we've heard Trey say, hey, Mike wants me to just be a back to the basket guy and I'm going to do what's best for the team. So, but if he does shoot the ball well enough during workouts and he does show the skills needed to be a big man, do you think he can raise a stock or not? I mean, what's
Yeah, I think he can. I think it's going to be hard to become a first-round pick based on workouts. Not impossible, but hard. But could he raise himself to the point where he might be this is not a Kofi Coburn problem. I mean, Trace has the feet to play and to cover anywhere. I mean, so this is not like that. But that offensive component, they're going to put you out there. How are you going to score baskets? That's the question that they're going to want to see. And if they're going to invest a first-round pick in you, they're going to want to believe that you can make baskets. second round pick, early second round, with maybe a guarantee of a 2-year guaranteed deal rather than a 2-way or something like that. I don't think that's beyond his reach if he were to show extraordinarily well in workouts and at the combine, that sort of thing. But I think it's hard to say, oh, forget everything I've put on tape for 3 years. Just pay attention to my workout film. There might be some feeling at the end of the first round, well, what else are we going to do? I mean, this guy's a legit athlete. He's a great kid. He's obviously he can block shots. He can move his feet. So he can probably play in our league. But at his size, it's different because he needs to be able to play on the perimeter on offense because they're not going to play him in the post. You know, they might post him from time to time, but he's got to show that he can play up the line. I mean, he's got – you look at Bam Adebayo. I don't think he's quite as physical as Bam, but I think that's kind of the model for how he's going to have to succeed at the NBA level. He's going to have to be able to guard players at least his size, maybe bigger, which I think he can do. He's shown that over 3 years. That's on tape. And he's going to have to show he can move his feet to be able to switch on defense. I don't think that's a problem for him. But Bam can take his offensive game up to the free throw line, no problem. Up to the 3-point line, not bad. I'd have to look at what Bam's numbers are, but I think that to me, that's kind of that's the model for him to an extent. As I said, he's not quite as physically powerful, but he's more powerful than you think. Bam, like I said, Bam is definitely a free throw line shooter, and I don't mean just foul shots, but he's not made a lot of threes in his career. He's only made 7 threes. So you can play in that league without being a 3-point shooter. That's Bam. That to me, that is what Trace's model for success would be. I'm going to be as close to Bam as I can be. And, like Bam has started on an NBA finalist and he started 240 out of 340 games. So, I mean, that's a pretty high target, but like I said, I don't think it's unreachable for him to at least be an approximation of that.
The Big Ten has just not done well in the tournament. Well, I guess I should save that for the next segment because that can go a while.
Yes. John's like, yes, please, let's wait.
Absolutely. So let's just do that since John already gave us a clip. We got lots more coming up currently right now. The great Mike DeCourcy with us, as is Kevin Brockway from CNHI. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Feast Market and Cellar. Stop by and get yourself a great bottle of wine and some cheese. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Yeah, good call. Usually I text you and say break after this topic, and I didn't do that today.
Oh God, that's great. Actually, somebody perfect because you did a too early top 25. Perfect.
Yes.
And the college coaching hires, and then the Big Ten. Yep.
Indiana in your too early top 25 or no?
They were not.
No, it's not. How can you? It's so hard. Like with Indiana,
it is hard.
I'm like, you don't even know who the hell they have on their roster. It's like going.
I know. Rothstein had him 18, which I thought was kind of weird.
Well, it is weird because really, I'm like, do they have Trace Jackson Davis?
Well, they were.
Well, I mean, you have to project.
And
that's part of the projection now, Jim, is that you're projecting who you're going to have. Like I projected Kentucky at 1, and you know who gave me the most crap about projecting Kentucky at 1?
Arkansas fans.
Calipari.
No, Kentucky fans.
Kentucky fans.
Really?
They crushed me. And
I don't want the pressure.
Because they are so mad about last season and the year before that they can't conceive ever being good again. And they were 26-8 this year. It's obviously not universal, but it is kind of funny that they're so bent out of shape over that.
Well, they can't win the big one. I mean,
or at least
that's
get back
that's
to the
what,
big one.
yeah, that's what's bothering them is they
Well,
they win games. That's what they do, but they're not winning national games when it
they have an
matters. One national
unbelievable-
championship in a dozen years of having the top talent.
They had that unbelievable run though from 2011 to 2015. It was 4 Final Fours in 5 years, and it's pretty
Mhm.
good. And then I guess the one and done, the transfer portal changed everything, right?
Well, what's changed everything is Duke's getting the best players, and they're not getting them anymore. And
Mike, yes, they said, "Hey, Nike, we're tired of this. How about a little help? Let's go. What's going on with this?"
Here we go.
And next thing you know, Scion shows up.
Pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back here with Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox BTN, and Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Guys, and Mike, I noticed that Oscar Tshiebwe, you mentioned him in the last segment. How does he not go? I mean, I don't have a mock draft pulled up. I was thinking that he was a first rounder. He's not.
No, same problem as Kofi, only he's 3 inches shorter. He's a mostly low post player. Whether or not he can switch defensively is a question. Whether he's only 6'9", and that's a problem for him. There may be much greater value for him to play Kentucky, with as much support as that program has. I mean, we've seen reports of 7-figure college athletes. So if there's a 7-figure college athlete, how about super appealing personality, unanimous national player of the year, playing in one of the hottest college basketball markets, if not the hottest college basketball market. If that player is not worth a lot of money in NIL, then all the rest of this stuff is just fiction. And I don't think it is. I think we've seen enough proof that there's real money in this. So I think that the opportunities for him at Kentucky will be really, truly great. I can't say much greater because I don't know for sure. And I don't think he knows for sure. I think it would not hurt him to go through the NBA process at all. I don't think it hurts anybody to go through that. I've always compared it to a summer internship. It's a little shorter than your average summer internship, but it's an opportunity for you to be in the professional world and see what the professional world is like, what they value, what they don't. What's true about what you've been told by your people, and what's not. And you get, okay, this is how they train. This is how they work out. This is what they want to see. I think that's a great experience for every college basketball player to go through. I think it's a shame that college football doesn't allow its, the NFL and college football don't allow their athletes to go through that process in the same way. I think this is a great value for the college athlete. So if he wants to go through it, do it. And he'll probably discover that he's not a first-round pick and there's more money available to him in college.
I would like the next step would be and I've heard this proposed, and I don't know if it's even true or not, but why do we have this draconian measure anyway of why not let guys go through the draft, and if they're not picked where they want, come back? I mean, why do we have lines? Yeah.
There's 2 things to that. One, if you're not picked where you want, the NBA says doesn't matter. You're picked where you are, and that's the end of it. Like if Mike DeCourcy, star point guard for Point Park College, go through the draft and they pick me 50th, I'm forever the 50th pick. I don't get another shot at that. That's the way they do that. So that's part of it. And then, but the idea of going through the draft, not getting picked and coming back to college, I think the time for that is long past. I think the college coaches don't want that. They're cool with what I just said. Go through the process, okay, but I don't want to be waiting until July to find out whether you're going to be on my team. If they tell you you're not going to get picked, then listen to them and come back. Listen to what they say and come back. They're going to tell you what you're going to do. And in a lot of cases, they're going to tell you, if you're there at 40th, unless the miracle happens and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is there at 40th too, we're going to take you. They'll tell you that. And then you have to decide whether 40th is enough. And so that's kind of how the process works. But that's why, to me, I guess I kind of understand why the coaches don't want you to have to go all the way through it, because the teams are going to tell you whether you're going to get selected or not. And in this environment with name, image, and likeness, if you're not told that you're going to get picked with a guarantee of a 2-year guaranteed deal, then you're a fool to not go back, or you're at the wrong school. One of the two.
Sean asked, in a world without NIL, does Trace Jackson Davis even consider coming back? He can make money somewhere playing basketball next year. No, I don't think he does without NIL, but there's NIL is here. And not only is it here, it will pay him more than anything short of Europe or the NBA.
I think even Europe now. Depends on the school, depends on the deal. But as I said, we have seen reports of 7-figure players. So I'm not promising you Trace is a 7-figure player, but
I've been told Race Thompson was an 6-figure. I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Right, but Trace is an All-American.
I don't see him being. I don't see that being the case. But I think that NIL is the thing that is going to help, and Kentucky fans would think I'm crazy, but I think it's going to help Indiana and Kentucky both get back in to the national picture. Not that UK hasn't been in the national picture. They haven't done anything relevant. They made the Final Fours there for a while, but winning a national championship is all that matters to them. And they won one in that span of over a dozen years of having the top classes in. But now getting to keep Anastra Shibwe, he definitely would not have been coming back. Without question. So to keep a guy like that makes a gigantic difference on these teams. To keep a Trace Jackson, it makes a huge difference. So now that's going to allow Indiana and Kentucky for somewhat to raise the tide of their programs.
Remember, of course, neither Oscar nor TJD is a guaranteed comeback. It's just it's probably more likely than not, in the words of the NFL back in the Deflategate days, it's more likely than not that they'll be back. So we'll see how it goes. And I wish them both the best, whatever's best for them, do it. But what I know that in the pre-NIL world, whatever's best wasn't even the factor anymore. It was just, I'm done because they tell me I have to be done. If I'm not done, then they're going to think what's the word they used to use? That your game gets picked apart. And that was the thing they used to say. The longer you stay, the more your game gets picked apart. And I'm like, these guys are professional scouts. Their job is to pick your game apart, whether they see you for one game or 100. That's their job. They're going to pick your game apart no matter what. Everybody always acted like the scouts were complete idiots. Like there are bad scouts out there, but most of them understand basketball well enough to pick your game apart because that's what they're told to do. They go there with a sheet of paper and say, okay, what is he, how does he move his feet on this? And what's his jump shot form look like? And that's their job. They're already picking your game apart.
Kentucky signed Calipari to the lifetime contract, whatever that means. But are they in a bad position now because of that? If let's say things continue and they can keep winning games, but not winning the games that they really want to win, especially in this age of NIL, where I know that Kentucky is going to be putting together a very, very nice NIL package, as is Indiana. But if they don't get the results they want, how do you get rid of John Calipari?
Why would you get rid of him? Is Michigan State agitating to get rid of Tom Izzo?
Nope.
He hasn't won a championship since 2000. Jeez. I mean,
but he hasn't had the top rated talent year after year for a dozen
neither
years.
has John. That's the fallacy. They stopped getting the top classes. They're still getting very good players, but they stopped getting the top classes for the most part in 2014, when the Jala Okafor, Justice Winslow, Tyus Jones class went to Duke. Duke's had many more top classes than Kentucky has in the years since. Look, this is the Kentucky problem right now. In 2020, when they had a great chance to win big, and there were others obviously too, Dayton and San Diego State and Kansas, etc., that could have won big, but they had a great team that year that won the SEC by, I believe, 3 games. That team wound up having no tournament. In 2011, they brought in a top class, and the players weren't very good. BJ Boston was, I think, the number 3 player in the class. It wasn't good. And so they ended up having a terrible year, plus COVID, all the rest of it. Some teams handled COVID well, some teams didn't. Their team didn't, and they played too tough a schedule, and they had a terrible year. This year, the funny thing is that all those years they had all those freshmen, and were freshman dominant teams, and they hadn't won the championships since 2012. So Kentucky fans started to complain they needed to be more veterans. That's what the problem is. So they had their oldest team probably since 2005 or something this past year, and they had their worst tournament result. But at the same time, it's a 2-year problem. You're not doing better than that. You're not. You're in the Final Four in 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015. You're in the Elite Eight in 2017 and 2019, losing basically on a buzzer shot both times. One was in overtime, one was on a true buzzer shot. So you're that close to 2 more Final Fours. You're not always going to be the best team. It's just reality. And never Kentucky's never had, since in my lifetime, Kentucky has never had a run where they're the best team every year or even close to that. The only approximation of that was 96 to 98. They were champions, runner-up champions. It's the only time that they've been that in my lifetime. And a year before they won it in 95, 96, they had a terrible performance in a 95 Elite Eight. The year before that, they lost in the second round to Marquette. They got drilled by Marquette with, Marquette had no pros. You're going to, 99, they lose in the Elite Eight. They played well, but they lose. So, I mean, that's what happens in college basketball. Your program has ups and downs, but how high are the ups and downs? And Kentucky's under Calipari have been nearly pristine. And yet there are certain elements of the fan base that can't remember past, a month ago when, yes, they had their worst loss in tournament history. Well, let me give you the history on the 15s over 2s. That's happened 10 times. 5 of the people who lost, the head coaches who lost as 2s to 15s, were Hall of Famers. Calipari, Krzyzewski, Lute Olson, Tom Izzo, and Jim Boeheim. 3 of those guys went on to win national championships after they lost as 15s. They lost as 2 to 15. And Tom Izzo then went out 2 years later, 3 years later, and took out Zion Williamson, probably the most gifted college basketball we've seen in the last decade at least. And so, it's not a death sentence. It's a bad day, and that puts a stain on what had been a good year. And so then you move on and you try to get better. But the idea that means that their program is over is preposterous.
And you have them listed number 1 in your too early top 25 for next season. As I look through that, it's a who's who of college basketball again, which is kind of weird because we had just gotten away from that, but the season end brought us to that with the Final Four. And then next year, I look at these names: Kentucky, UCLA, Kansas, Michigan, North Carolina, Arkansas, who has obviously been doing extremely well under Eric Musselman, Houston, who has done Kelvin Sampson has brought that program up, Duke, who will be under a new head coach, Gonzaga, and then Villanova finish out the top 10. I mean, that's a who's who of college basketball over the last decade, and some of them for further than that, of course. But that's just funny to me on how we've gotten talked about so much of the parity that has been there, but yet, boom, the big boys, they're still right there. They're not going anywhere.
Well, yeah, and I will say that some of that is, the big boys change. I mean, Houston wasn't a big boy until they were back in the Guy Lewis days.
They had a run,
and then Kelvin has changed the chemistry on that. Same with Villanova. Villanova wasn't considered that a decade ago. 2013, Villanova had a losing record, and Jay Wright completely rewrote his own script in the same way that Matt Painter did at Purdue around the same time. So I think some of that is, they've made themselves the new big guys, as with Gonzaga as well. I mean, Gonzaga 20 years ago was a true mid-major and not a great one for, up until 1999. So it's a little more than 20 years ago. So, things change more than you think. It's just a little more gradual. And that's not a guarantee that any of those teams are going to have great years next year. Or certainly not.
No, and it's all for fun. But one thing that also sticks out is I noticed there's only one Big Ten team in the top 10, and then there was a bunch of them. Michigan State at 15, Illinois at 16. There's Purdue at 21, Ohio State at 23. So the bulk of the Big Ten in the back half of that, of course, like again, we don't know what's until these teams shake out. But
yeah, I will say this. I was surprised. I mean, I was listening to CBS, Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander, their podcast yesterday. They had Michigan at number 11, and that was with the whole group coming back. I strongly disagree. That's one, like, if they have everybody back, if they have Moussa Diabate and Hunter Dickinson, and if they have Caleb Houston, with the guards they have, the guard play that they found in March when Devontae Jones was out, how much they got out of their guard play even without him. That's a team that I strongly believe in if they're whole. If they are intact, I guess would be better.
So Michigan obviously would be your too early top team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, like I said, if that group's intact, I think they have a legit shot at winning it because they've got the pros you need. I think.
But we've also got the talk, Mike, of Juwan Howard going to the Lakers, which I'm like, why? What in the hell has he done from a coaching standpoint that makes them think that he can come in and manage a LeBron James-led team? I don't understand.
Well, he was the Sporting News National Coach of the Year a year ago and made the Elite Eight and won the Big Ten regular season. He's done some really good things. He earned a number 1 seed last year. So
is that enough to think that he could cure the Lakers' ills? I mean, to move into the pro game.
Well, who can? Their roster's a disaster. Who can?
Yeah, and also let's not forget he's got a relationship with LeBron because he was in the system with the Heat. When LeBron was there. Right. So that's obviously a pull, and that's something I think he can negotiate with him and work with him because I think I think LeBron was a big Fab Five fan back in the day, so he obviously idolizes him. He looks up to him. So
I think the better question, guys, is why would Juwan want to go there?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's LA, baby. Have you watched Winning Time?
Hey, if Juwan wants to live in LA, he could do that now without having to work. I mean, he chose to go to Michigan. I'm just making the suggestion that he can be at Michigan for a long time. And if he goes to LA, he's not going to be there for a long time. No offense to him, but that's everybody used to say NFL stands for not for long. Nothing is more not for long than being an NBA head coach.
You got that right. Speaking of living in LA, if he wants to, I know we've got to get to a break, but we had Michael Lewis on yesterday, who had been living in LA and enjoying the sunny days of Calabasas, California. I'm sure his wife was thrilled to every day walk outside to 80-degree temperatures. And I remember last year, Mike was teasing us because we were talking to him, and he was waiting for this floating green to arrive that he was going to put into his pool. So when he was on yesterday, I was asking him, is the floating pool making the trip to Muncie? He was like, well, yeah, now he goes, you remember the movie, you got a pool, got a pond, pond would be good for you. We got a pond out back. So he's going to put it out in the pond. So he's moving from, it's like the Beverly Hillbillies. He's moving from Southern California to Muncie, Indiana. I can see with the floating green on the back of the truck and everything coming in. So, but no, I wish him the best of luck. Great. He was great yesterday. And I think he's going to do well there. He's in a state where it's going to be hard to recruit competitively against all these other schools. But, man, he's ready. I think he's ready for the job. And I just like what he's about. But wish him the best of luck.
I really like Mike as well. I've known him for a little while. And obviously working for Mick Cronin, who I know very well, and Mick thinks extremely highly of him. The one thing I'll say about going to Ball State is if you take a job like that, you've got to be happy being a MAC coach, because it's not easy to get out of that league in terms of climbing the ladder. And the reason is it is the most balanced league in college sports. It's the most competitively balanced league in college sports. Everybody's basically the same. They're mostly big state schools. They all have similar resources. They all have similar levels of commitment. And so you go there and you coach your tail off, and there's only one bid available for the most part. We haven't had a multi-bid MAC, I think, since around 98 or 99. It's just really hard to build up the numbers because of the competitiveness. It's hard to put up the kind of record that league record. You can go out and win your share of non-conference games in that league, and then you come into the league and they're going to hit you some, and it's hard to get a at-large record out of that league. But this past year you had the semifinals in the MAC were Toledo, Kent State, Ohio U, and Akron. All four of those teams were very good. I mean, very good college basketball teams. Any one of them could have come out and represented the MAC extremely well. And that's what he's stepping into. It now is to try to become one of those 3 or 4 or 5 schools that are right there at the top of the MAC. It's very hard to do. Once you get it going, it's not easy to keep it going, but if you get it going, you can sustain some momentum. Todd Kowalczyk's done it at Toledo for basically a decade without ever making the NCAA tournament. Lots of 20-win seasons, lots of double-digit MAC win seasons. Hasn't broken through yet. We've seen Akron do it this year. We saw Ohio break through last year and win a game in the tournament, beating Virginia. So that's what Mike's up against. It's a really competitive league, but it'd be nice to see. In a state with so many gifted basketball players as this one, it'd be nice to see if the state of Indiana could get some of that action, not just some of that maction, I should say, not just Ohio with the 4 schools I mentioned.
Yeah, and Akron pushed UCLA in Portland. I mean, they gave them a heck of a game. Really took them to the limit there. So it's a strong league. And I remember Toledo. What was it, like a decade ago, Mike? Toledo had that bad point shaving scandal.
It was more than a decade. Yeah, because that was not on Todd's watch. I went up there around 2011 or 2012. Did an event for them at one of their games. And watched them play, and they were very good then. And that he's just been able to keep it very, very good all the way through, but just, not in that conference tournament, just hasn't been able to break through. And, credit to Toledo for not, saying, oh, you can't win that one game, so we're going to make a move, when he's putting out, 20 win teams, double-digit MAC win seat teams so frequently.
But he's done a good job rebuilding that. That's my point, because
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, no question.
Yeah.
We spent so much time. I wanted to talk about the college coaching hirings as well, but I guess we'll have to
the Big
wait
Ten
till
thing.
next
We got to
week.
table that too. Don't forget, next week we got to talk about the Big Ten in the tournament. That's a good subject to talk about.
That one is that's a definite. I mean, teams and coaches have to change their thought processes.
Yeah, I think we'll find that that's not really true. That's the theme that's going out there. I've heard it from some really good analysts, and I don't buy it. But I don't think John's going to let us talk about this at length. So we need to talk about this next week.
The great Mike DeCourcy, make sure you give him a follow at the Sporting News. He's got tons of great content up there, including grading the coaching basketball hires, too early top 25, and much, much more. But give him a follow. We appreciate having him here each and every Tuesday, man. I'm looking forward to it again next week. Hope you have a great rest of your week, Mike.
You too, Jim, Kevin, John. Take care. Great talking to you.
Thank you very much. The great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News joining us here. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat. Kevin Brockway with us. From the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by our good friends at RE/MAX Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. Hey, I just sent you a text, John, that I meant to schedule last night to go this morning, but Tyler Harris, the executive director.
I saw that. Yeah. For tomorrow.
Well, that was an email that went out, yeah. But my text was going to say to please let Rick Bozich know in case he wants to join early.
Okay, yeah, I'll let him know. You will have tomorrow and Thursday. You'll have Keegan again. I know I told you last week, but just to remind you.
Oh God, dang it! Nothing about Keegan. It's not about Keegan. It just means we don't have music. It throws everything off. I hate it.
Technically, I looked in here the other day. There's background music in here, and I was listening to some of it, but there's not a lot of.
There's
stuff.
not during the show. There's not.
No. On StreamYard, you can play. They have like little music sounds that they added recently.
Well,
most of them aren't very good, but I can see if Keegan wants to use those just to make it seem a little more like I'm there.
Yeah, teach him how.
I'll give him a call tonight and see if he wants to hop on, and I'll show him.
That, and he's got to get better at now, does he know how to use this thing, this background? And
honestly, he shouldn't even have to touch it if it should just be there.
Well, what I was going to say is, you could put sponsor logos above those two. Yeah. And just change that background and have like 3 or 4 different ones.
The issue though is when you have a lot of people on here, it covers it up. Like right now, when there's 3 on, you won't.
But you worry about that at that time, and you just lose it at that time. That's no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
As long as you don't mind, because I was thinking about putting the title sponsors up top. If you want,
I'd rather have 80% of something than 100% of nothing.
Okay. Do you like the background? Is this something you're going to want to keep?
I think it looks good.
Good. I haven't seen anybody really comment on it, so I couldn't really get a read of if it was something.
Ask the people; they'll tell you.
Yeah, audience, listeners, watchers, whatever you're going to call yourselves, viewers. Let us know if you like the new background or if you think it's silly or too much, but kind of wanted to do something more than just a black background. But yeah, let us know.
And actually, the logos on there would be better because it would not be up on.
But you couldn't switch that every time. It would just need to be. You still need to have that one in the corner for segment sponsors. Oh, here we go. Lots of good compliments. Thanks, Pete, Brad, Tebow. Oh, here we go. Coming back.
You want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday, Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle here with you as always. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers as well. Tomorrow, Tyler Harris, the executive director of Hoosiers for Good, the NIL consortium for Indiana, joins us to kind of explain their first inaugural class, just more about that. So looking forward to finding out a little bit more about that. Also, expecting and hoping to have Jamal Meeks on next Monday, newest assistant at Ball State under Michael Lewis, former Hoosier, of course, had been coaching up in New Jersey for the past couple of years. I'm sure he is happy to get back closer to his original home in Illinois, but getting back in Indiana, that's got to be pretty cool for him. So looking forward to that. He's a character, man.
Is he related to Jody Meeks or no?
I have no idea.
Okay. I remember Jody Meeks that played at Mississippi State, who hit a last-second shot against Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. It was back in, I think, 2003.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you know what? Where was he from? Was he from Illinois?
I'm going to look it up right now. Jody Meeks. No, Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville.
There you go. I'm
probably
going to go
a different Meeks. I was always curious.
Definitely a different Meeks. Absolutely. Let's see, all kinds of stuff going on over the week, man. And I was talking earlier. The schedule for AAU basketball is nuts. Let's see. Let me read you just it's already started. It started in April. Like April 1st. And every weekend, there is an event, or last weekend, multiple events, all in the Indianapolis area. You come back on the 22nd to Indianapolis for the Nike EYBL Tour, which KJ Evans will be there. McNeely, who just picked up an offer from Indiana. Harrelson, Sisley, I believe. So lots of guys, but then that's still in April. And then at the end of April, you've got the Bill Hensley Memorial Run and Slam up in Fort Wayne. Then a couple weeks later, the Adidas May Classic in Indianapolis. That same weekend, the Prep Hoops Havoc in the Heartland in Indianapolis. Looks like a couple weeks later, the Memorial Day Run and Slam in Fort Wayne. That same weekend, the Nike EYBL 3 in Louisville. Let's see, 2 or 3 weeks after that, the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association Top 100 Showcase in Indianapolis. The following weekend, the Charlie Hughes Shootout in Carmel and Westfield. Let's see, a weekend after that, the Battle of the Brands in Indianapolis. 2 weeks after that, the Prep Hoops Grit Region Finals in Indianapolis. Let's see, the week after that, the Under Armour Finals in Chicago. The same weekend, the Adidas Gauntlet is in Atlanta, and the Peach Jam is going on in North Augusta. So the finals, and I don't know why they do this. Why do they have them all three at the same damn time? That's an impossibility to cover. You would think that they would kind of, gee whiz. You've got the entire month of July, and they're all three playing on the same weekend. Under Armour, Adidas, and the Peach Jam. But that's the schedule.
Have you ever been Pete's Jam?
I have not, but I will. I will probably go to. I don't know if I'm gonna be probably go to the Adidas Gauntlet. Maybe go back and forth. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I used to.
I want to go to the Pete's Jam just to go to. Hello, friends.
Go to You can play there. Augusta National.
Yeah, not happening. That's the schedule right there. that's
you
the
get like a
upcoming
media
schedule.
deal or something like that or whatever there.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
What did you think about Scott Scheffler winning the Masters over the weekend?
Thought it was great for him.
He's on a roll. Huh?
Yeah, it mattered nothing to me, but I didn't have a dog in that fight. He won. I forget how much money it was. A nice amount.
Yeah.
So good for him. It was fun to watch. Tiger gave the people a reason, some hope for a little bit, and then that went away. But
I guess over the weekend, right in Noblesville, Josiah Newton put on a little bit of a show. Is that correct? And everyone sees comments saying that he's going to be a poor man's Derrick Rose or something like that. But
I saw that comment.
We'll see. 6'3", 190. He's an intriguing guy, and Gabe Cup's obviously Mr. Ohio basketball, right? The point guard from Ohio, and another guy that you're looking forward to. The guards, really, and it's it's going to be trending where you can see the staff is remaking this program into 4 out, 1 in, which on the basis of their recruiting. I mean, the balance of the guards and the talent of guards that are recruiting. Hood Schifino versus the big guys, but obviously bigger guards too, guards that can switch and guards that can play defense. That's going to be a priority as well. You're seeing all these guys are 6'3" and taller. You're not seeing many, Rob Finnessy's out there, and I saw Hood Schifino a week and a half ago, and he's 6'5", 190, solidly built kid, or 210 now, I think. So I think those are the guys that Woodson and the staff are targeting, and that's how they want to remake this program, is 4 out, 1 in, guard heavy group. And that's why, a lot of skilled guys at the guards, guys that can switch and play defense, and then hopefully give you some perimeter shooting as well, which, has been in short supply in this program for a long time.
Rob Cassidy, basketball recruiting director for Rivals, has a great piece out. It's a survey where top prospects give advice to coaches. We're always giving advice to players and all that, but how about some advice to coaches? Since coaches spend a lot of time giving prospects advice on how to be recruited, how about reversing the deal? So he talked to a bunch of different guys that if you look at it, this article and read it, you certainly recognize. I'm trying to go through here and see if there's any Indiana. Yep. There's one, Jalen Hood Schifino. Jalen Hood says you have to keep it real with the player. Don't start selling some player a dream that isn't possible. Keep it 100% with them about what they need to work on and what their role is going to be when they get there. You can't lie about the role and then have them get there and find out it's different than what you said. Pretty basic. Malik Raynal, a teammate who Indiana is seeking as well, says give the players some space. Sometimes they over-recruit. It's a good thing that you have people calling you, but sometimes they overdo it. I'll get out of a practice some days and have like 4 or 5 missed calls from the same person. That's too much. Kind of sounds like men and women. I mean,
dating. Yep. You gotta give
that is exactly what this is. It's dating. The coaches are courting these players. And it's the same exact thing. If a girl is doing that, you're like, it's too much. Or if you reverse it and a guy's doing that to the girl and she's like, dude, back off. It's the same thing. It's kind of funny. The dating, the courting.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like if you like a person or if you like a school, you should want to communicate with them too. I don't know. There's a balance to that with everything.
Well, no. I don't think any of these guys are saying that they don't think this should happen. They're just, hey, here's some ideas. All right, let's see what some
other day, I think it was 20 years ago. Billy Donovan, they used to call him the stalker. I mean, he would have a guy at 12:01 a.m. if a recruiting class started at midnight, at the door, and the players liked that 20 years ago. But I think it was probably a different time because back then you didn't have coaches.
Well, it was different time. It was new. It was different. Yeah. It made him feel special, and that's not the case anymore.
Now everybody's doing it. So what's the point?
Let's see. You can go to the Hoosier.com for this complete story. But the biggest advice I'd give them is to care about the player. Is to care about what the player is doing on a daily basis. This is from Ronald Holland, but you can't just call and ask them about basketball all the time. Check in on their family too. You have to let them know you care about them as a person.
Yeah.
What recent coach had that exact label? That is why he is not going to succeed anywhere else. Archie Miller, this is the exact opposite of what he did. I was having a conversation with someone the other day that was there. He didn't talk to them outside of practice. There was no relationship. He didn't care what was going on in their life. There was no relationship. As you can see, what we saw, that's how it was everywhere. Archie in a bubble. And as you told me a long time ago, which has been the greatest metaphor or whatever, he's an island coach. He wants to take himself and his program out on an island where no one can talk to him, no one can watch him, no one can see that his practices are not developing anything. This same person, there was a complete lack of development. Well, yes, we can attest to that. And so it was just amazing. It's still amazing what you learn, but
started watching him, when the beginning of the end was Scott Dolson, right? He was the one who was watching him. Remember, he talked about he was evaluating the practices at the end that year, and then that's what led to Mike Woodson being hired as the coach and Archie being let go.
Hey, we're late for a break, man. I was going to go through a few more of these, but let's see. All right, some of them like to blow up people's phones, and it's like, can't you guys chill? There were times when I'd get called by the same guy 3 times a day. Obviously, it's a blessing to be recruited, but chill, guys. So there's that. I'm looking for anything else. Be patient with the players you recruit. I like to take my time with decisions, not just this one, but all decisions. So when coaches want players to hurry up and decide, it can hurt them. So there are plenty more. Go to thehoosier.com, Indiana Rivals, and read the rest of that. Hey, back with more Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our good friends from Reynolds Family Dentistry. Looking for that championship smile? Dr. J can give it to you. If you're down in the Sellersburg area, Southern Indiana, make sure you stop in, make an appointment. Go see Reynolds Family Dentistry. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Normally we would have Chronic here, but maybe he's caught up doing something else, and that's fine.
What would he be caught up doing?
Who knows? His job, maybe. All right, bring us back from break.
The Certified Dream Deal Sales Event. Get 0.99% APR financing for well-qualified buyers on all 2017 through 2021 Honda Certified Pre-Owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday here at Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle with you as always. Kevin Brockway from CNH High Papers as well. Hope your week's off to a good start. Hoping that the weather picks up a little bit, man. I'm tired of this. This is like an extended, and see, this is the same thing is going to happen. It extends this late winter, spring, gets extended out, and then it just jumps right in. We don't get the true spring that way. But oh well, we'll see. I saw Indiana made the top 6 yesterday for a kid that I'm trying to pull up, but I'm having a computer issue at the moment. But the transfer from West Virginia,
Sean McNeil is his name.
6'3", Sean McNeil, 6'3" shooting guard, was West Virginia's top 3-point shooter last year, I believe. I think he hit something like 93s. Around 37%, shot like 38% from the field overall. He'll be he's a 4-year player. That would be someone that you would love to see come in on paper, at least. But of course, we thought that about Miller Kopp, thought that about Parker Stewart, and it didn't turn out. But a kid that's coming from West Virginia, having played for Bob Huggins, yeah, I'm going to take that chance. He's going to be a tough SOB to begin with, probably. If you played for Huggy Bear, you're tough. You played in a tough league in the Big 12. So, I mean, that's definitely someone that Indiana has to keep an eye on. And with this open scholarship right now, that would certainly plug into a nice hole.
Indiana needs is a volume 3-point shooter. Like, don't forget, they were like 10th or 11th in the league in percentage, but they were last in threes made and in the league. And I think that's the issue. Like, if you look at Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp's percentages, they were both over 35%. The problem was they couldn't get on a roll and make 3 or 4 in a game. Miller Kopp had that one game against Syracuse where he did, but other than that, you need a guy that can go out and is capable in hitting 3 or 4 in a game, somewhat on a regular basis, or at least do it 4, 5, 6 times a year, have that big game. And Devontae Green a couple of years ago, remember he had that huge game against FSU, and he had a few others, Iowa. You need someone like that. You need a guy that can get on a hot shooting roll where he can, go 4 for 7 in a game. And that's what I think Indiana is really missing. They don't have that volume 3-point shooter, that guy that can, knock down a bunch in a game to really carry a team.
Well, what they don't have is that guy that can hit that shot that that you can just go to, the guy that's going to hit a shot. Jay Edwards, Steve Alford, AJ Guyton, Brian Evans, Calvert Chain. It doesn't matter who it is. The guys that you can just that can just hit a tough shot. They don't have that guy. They just don't. And they've got to find him with inconsistency as well. His bad days should be okay. They need to find that guy where his bad days are okay, but his good days are pretty good. That's the difference. And I keep saying this over and over, and it's not like I'm a genius. That's the difference between Indiana being a top Big Ten team, a top team, and a top 25 team in the country, and not, is simply having someone that can knock down shots You have guard play now. It depends on who comes back, but you've got the other pieces in place. With Trace Jackson Davis, if they had a guy that is knocking down shots, can you imagine how that opens it up for him? And the damage that an Indiana offense could do if it had that one extra piece. That was the difference between them being a top 4 Big Ten team last year and not.
93s, when I look at Sean McNeil's stats, the 93 stands out. It's the volume, it's the number. The fact that he's capable of hitting 3 or 4 or 5 in a game, which, and you got to play that two-man game too with Trace. And I thought Trace and it was so weird to see like Trace play the two-man game early in the season with Xavier Johnson, who was not a good three-point shooter, got a little better at the end of the year. But why didn't we see that more with Miller Kopp, or why didn't we see that more with Parker Stewart, where you kind of fed him in the post and you worked inside out and you got the ball? Parker, they did a little bit of that in the Notre Dame game, which was their best time. But why didn't they go to that more? That was always one of my big, question marks in regards to how they ran the offense.
Let's see. I saw something else I was going to put up here. Ross says that we all know that they're not recruiting Flory Badunga. Why? He's one of the hottest names and is about to become probably one of the hottest names on the recruiting circuit. He's got a couple years to go, but yeah, I'd say that's not quite true, unless that was just being a tongue-in-cheek deal. Bradley says Tom. He says I don't know what he's talking about. Scores around the rim. I missed out on that conversation, so I'll have to jump off that. Let's see. Again, asking about Xavier Johnson. No, if there's going to be anything on Xavier Johnson, you will have seen it before you get to this show, probably, unless it happens while this show is on the air. I don't expect any. There is not going to be an update. Unless they boot him from the team now, which I do not expect. I do not see happening. There's not going to be any. There's nothing else to say.
He was supposed to have initial court hearing on Friday. It was waived. It was pushed back, and I think they're trying to plead down to the misdemeanor. Because
of course I've said that all week. That's what they do. That's what it's not. And it has nothing to do with Xavier. That's life. That's the judicial system. That's what they do. Of course they're going to do that. Everybody's had that. That's just that's how it is.
For trying to. When you look at it, you get a felony for evading an officer when you're pulling into your own apartment lot, because apparently he lived there, according to the address records that I saw. He lived in that place where he pulled into. So
you mean after he evaded police and was driving 90 miles an hour on Walnut?
Yeah. So when he made that turn,
wanted to be clear.
When he made that turn into the apartment complex, he was turning into the place he lived. It wasn't like he was turning into a place that was foreign or that he was just turning into it. So I'm sure they could use that somehow.
So what you're trying to say is he was trying to get away is what I would.
Yeah. He's getting away, but he's going home. He's not going into a random apartment complex.
Yes. He's going home so he can hide.
I'm sure the lawyers could use that though and say, hey, he's just going home.
Well, what the hell do you think? If you're I would love to have you in a courtroom. Yeah. We would just be going back and forth at it. But of course, yes, I don't expect anything else to happen. All right. So let's get off the Xavier train. Something happens, it does, but I expect nothing else to happen. He'll be punished from within.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about that.
But you think he will be back regardless of how this plays out?
Yes. I do. Indiana is too close. Mike Woodson is too close to feeling like he's got a really good team next year. If he can get Xavier Johnson under control, which that is a gigantic question because he's not been able to do that up to this point. Let's be honest. But if he can get Xavier Johnson under control, playing from day one like he played the last 10 games of the season, with the addition of Jalen Hood-Schifino and Caleb Banks, And if they pick up someone like Sean McNeil, per chance, Trace Jackson Davis stays. They've got a shot to be pretty decent next year. But they've got to hit guys to hit shots. It's all there is to it. But he knows that. And he also knows that he took a big chance with the disciplinary action after the Northwestern debacle. I don't think he wants to be. You have to remember also, back in the late 70s, Mike Woodson was in a group of guys that got into trouble with Bob Knight. I think 4 of them were booted from the team. 3 of them just got suspended. One of those 3 that just got suspended was Mike Woodson. So he probably has a different way of looking at things from a player's perspective, and now as a coach, drawing back on that time. And that's just all there is to it. I mean, we can make something out of it if we want, but it is what it is. I have my doubts about him just because I see the pattern, but I'm not as close to it as Mike Woodson is. And if he thinks that he can get control of him, hey, it's his job. But I think that they want more than anything next season to have an Indiana team that brings that excitement back that has been missing for a long time. And having an Xavier Johnson is a critical part of that.
Yeah, no question. I think that, the more guys you can bring back and build off, what you did this year, and the chemistry too. And there's something to be said for that. You get that chemistry, you get guys that are, you get a core of guys that are coming back for another year. That helps because it's still a team game, and the more new faces you bring in, the more chance for things to short circuit. Not that, you always want to bring in talent, but there's something to be said for having the core guys that are back together. And I think if you can get Trace and Xavier back for another year, working on those screen and roll plays, those alley-oops that were really successful at the end of last year, and doing different variations off that and putting defenses in a bind, then the better off you're going to be if they can both come back up. Another recruiting thing, Miro Little, right? The guy from Finland is making his decision this week, the 15th, right? Indiana's in the mix, 6'3" guard, but
not really. He's Baylor has been the lead in that, and everybody's going to say, "Oh, they got rid of Fife and they didn't get him." Nah, I think he was going to Baylor the whole time.
Yeah. So I think he will. He'll end up.
Indiana doesn't need another freshman.
Point guard. Yeah,
they don't need another freshman point guard at that. So they need a guy like Sean McNeil who can come in and shoot. My personal,
yeah. Oh yeah. No, you need shooters, but they can be hard to come by. And it seems like when they come here, there are a lot of lids on the assembly hall rims because we saw Parker Stewart and Miller Cobb come here, and neither one have much success this past season. So, I don't know if there's something within the offense or within, playing in the Big Ten and so forth, but you need that volume 3-point shooter too. You need a guy that can, knock down 3 or 4 in a game on a semi-consistent basis.
Ross said there's a long conversation elsewhere about Flory. Sounds like he's already got it home. Well, he's 2 years away from college, so it's way too much time for me to think that he's been locked down by someone, especially with the NIL situation out there. He's a foreign student on top of that. So that could be gigantic to someone like him, an NIL situation. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Boom, boom, where I saw something else I wanted to put up. Well, put this one up, Tom. Which guards did Indiana have last year, and how many times did any of them take 8 to 9 3-point shots in any one game? If Race and Trace both return, which guard would have an opportunity to take that many? it doesn't matter if Race and Trace comes back. They don't have to be played the same way. They don't have to be played at the same time. Indiana did not have the talent to not do that last year. They didn't have the talent to put on the floor. That's the difference. Now they do have extra talent to spread it out a little bit more on the perimeter. You are going to have a Caleb Banks and a Jalen Hood-Schifino, and CJ Gunn for that matter. All guys that are going to be perimeter guys. So that you can't just because if both of them were to come back, it can't be the same as last year. I agree with that. But they did not think about who wasn't producing. Miller Kopp, Parker Stewart. You were getting nothing from that. And that's what killed Indiana. That's what they have to fix. Not Trace and Race. Not even Xavier Johnson. I saw someone said they would take Schifino over Johnson. Well, you can't say that. Jalen Hood-Schifino hasn't even played a single second of college basketball. Although, yes, I talk about him all the time being way more mature and playing at a JUCO level, basically. Yes, but you're not going to take take him over a 4-year guy who has experience with not only with the team, with the offense in the league, playing in the Big Ten. No, experience matters. You just have to get it to where it's all going in the right direction, Kevin.
Well, yeah, Jalen Hood-Schifino is not going to give you double-figure scoring as a freshman.
No, but that's not his job, per se.
He's not that offense. Well, but then you're saying, you're talking about lack of production for Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp. Then you've got 3 guys that are not giving you double figures in scoring.
No. But he does score. He does score. He's not going to. He doesn't have to light it up with 5 threes a game. He doesn't have to be that guy. He just has to consistently score.
I'm just saying that
and facilitate.
If you are taking him over Xavier, someone said over Xavier Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Then you are putting yourself in a major offensive bind. That's my point. Is that you can't say, hey, look, let's just jettison Xavier Johnson and make Jalen Hood-Schifino your starter from day one, because he's not going to give you the offense that you need, especially if you don't get offense from those 2 wing spots. If you don't fill that, then you're going to be in more of a bind than you were offensively. So you need a guy that's productive, running the point. And Jalen he's not ready to be a double figure, but he's going to impact the game in a lot of other ways. He's going to be a great defender, I think. He's going to be a great facilitator. He's a guy that could probably average 4 or 5 assists a game, but he's just not going to give you the scoring, I don't think, right away. I think that's something that's going to take time for him to develop his offensive skills.
And that's why I say it's important that this open scholarship right now, that someone like Sean McNeil is a guy that they could certainly use.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a plug-and-play guy. Now, again, we thought that about Miller Kopp, thought that about Parker Stewart. Didn't happen. So, but that's where that scholarship needs to be used, where it needs to be used. We got to take a break, the boss man says. We got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, and they're #1 for a reason. You get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting
Did Chronic, I'm assuming, tell you he wasn't available today? Or did he
Nope,
even
never
reach
heard
out to
from
you?
him.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Ed Orgeron was at Notre Dame football practice. I was wondering what that was all about.
Imagine if he became Notre Dame's head coach. Not that they need a head coach right now, but
no.
Well, I wanted to come up here and thought I could use some prayer service. Yeah. That sounded more like
the guy from Louisville.
Sling Blade.
That sounded more like the only variable is time. That guy.
Howard.
That's Howard Schnellenberger.
Yeah, Howard Schnellenberger.
The University of Louisville is on a collision course for the national championship. The only variable is time. You guys have got 214 people out there, a blogger, a high school yearbook writer, and a podcaster waiting for you to go out and do something special.
That was for Kevin. Didn't even make him smile.
I was looking something up.
He should have said the University of Louisville is on a collision course with NCAA sanctions.
There you go. That would be funny.
All right, here we go.
Rivals Network. The Hoosier.com is where you...
You're good. You have a few seconds. What do you need to say?
I was just going to say, I forgot.
Oh,
yeah.
Full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great day. Kevin Brockway from CNHI with me. Jim Coyle, as always, here. I was talking about Sean McNeil as a guy that, boy, Indiana could sure use in the portal. Transfer from West Virginia, played for Huggy Bear. He's from Union, Kentucky, Kevin. That's down near Cincinnati. That's not that far to Bloomington. He's got Louisville in his final six, which I don't see that happening. Not with A, having a brand new coach, and B, there's too much questions going on there. You got people leaving. And if you've got a 4-year guy that's looking to go win, Louisville's not going to be his answer. I don't know what the staff is doing. Neither of us do, but man, McNeil is sure looking like a nice option, Kevin.
Yeah, and does he have Cincinnati also in his final six? I saw.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could go there. Or there are places he could go, but he would certainly fill a need here, and you could sell him on that, and you could sell him on immediate playing time, the fact that he could step in here and play right away and be that guy that could potentially bring IU back, and you've got the tradition and the history here. So we'll see, but you never know, what necessarily is in a kid's mind when it comes to that, what they're thinking and what their ultimate end goal is. And I think certainly for Indiana, if they can't get him, they got to find someone that can, shoot the basketball on a semi-regular basis, right?
Yeah, and we've been saying that for 4 years, ironically, which is crazy to be saying that in the state of Indiana after this time. But that's where Indiana is. I just think that there's going to be a lot less stress next year. Having made the tournament takes stress off of a team. I mean, there are guys that have, Trace Jackson Davis, those guys were a part of those teams that didn't make the tournament. That stress has got to start carrying over. I know people that can act like it doesn't, but I think that it's not true, especially if you're someone like Trace Jackson Davis. You want to leave with a legacy. Nothing good has happened during his time other than they finally beat Purdue. I don't mean that negatively towards Trace. I'm just saying they haven't won something. You know what I mean? You want to leave a legacy.
Haven't won anything of 10th, 9th, and 9th in Trace's 3 years. So in the Big Ten, in the 14-team Big Ten, they did make the tournament this year. Could they have? They maybe could have made it in 2020 with the pandemic, shortened thing, and it might have been another situation where they got into Dayton that year, but barely getting into the tournament, squeezing by, and then losing by 29 on the road in Portland against St. Mary's is not necessarily a legacy you'd want to leave. So, he needs more horses around him. To be fair, he hasn't had the support in terms of guys that can necessarily shoot and guys that are dynamic. But you come back one more year, you can move up in the record books, you can make your mark, and potentially be a part of a team that can show progress in the Big Ten, this year, and leave it better than when you found it. And look, he's terrific. Trace he's a terrific athlete, and he has, in a lot of ways, carried this program the last 3 years. Leader in scoring, leader in assists, leader in block shots for 3 years, 3 straight years. So a dominant talent, no doubt, but impacting winning is kind of the next step, I think, that he has to make in terms of, leaving the program in a legacy and being remembered.
Yeah, and something that just occurred to me, how ironic would it be Indiana having needed a shooter for the last couple of years, but still needing one. What if it were to turn out to be Sean McNeil? What if he ends up being the guy that they are able to get and comes in and produces? What if the guy that comes in finally is the shooter that Indiana needs, and he's a dude from Kentucky? That would be ironic beyond irony, because Indiana doesn't recruit Kentucky players hardly. They don't produce nearly on the level that say someone like Indiana does. That's the biggest reason. But now the portal, again, you've got guys that go off and develop and do things and get better. And it would just be, I just find that would be very, very ironic for Indiana having needed a shooter for so long. And if they finally get one and he ends up being from Kentucky, I just find that to be funny.
Well, it begs the question, why haven't you find a shooter in Indiana, right? And I think Armand Franklin last year, didn't he shoot near 40% from three? He had that really good sophomore year for Indiana, and then he transferred. But I think this year at Virginia, his percentage was back pretty low, right? It was in the 20s or the 30s. It was back down. So, they have not been able to find that perimeter guy within the state that could really
Well, they haven't recruited the wrong ones. They haven't. It's been two things. Archie Miller either recruited the wrong ones or just simply could not land them. I mean, he could not land the talent that he needed to succeed. They did not want to come play for him. Why would you? I mean, we've seen all the stuff that's been said. I can say it all I want, but we've seen all the stuff that was said by the team. So, yeah, but why would you want to? But anyway,
but that shooter should be out there, right? You just in the state, like
of course he's out there. He's out there all over the place.
Yeah,
they're all over the place, and it's about development too. And there was no development under this program under Archie Miller. Zero. I'm telling you, I've had conversations with people that were in there. No development. So when you have no development and you don't have the talent, you don't have the personnel, you can't get the players you need, and you're not developing, you're not going to go anywhere. And they didn't go anywhere. So that's about to change.
You think there's been development in year one under Mike Woodson for players? Xavier Johnson got better.
He got better at the end, but that was because he got his head out of his ass.
Yeah.
You thought, at least for a while. But I'd like to be in practice. It would be great to see practices from the early in the season and be able to see some at the end of the season. There has to have been Well, you have to say Race Thompson got better. I mean, he was consistent all year long. That wasn't him last year. He wasn't that good last year, but I think there's going to be more on that. I think that Indiana's going to focus more on that. And as a matter of fact, in the near future, I think that they'll bring someone else in onto the staff. Like right now, it used to be just the 4 guys that were coaches could instruct. Now there's an additional 2 people that can instruct, 2 or 3. What positions are those? Director of basketball ops, I would assume, maybe.
Yeah. Well, Brian Walsh's old position, right, was recruiting.
No. Yes,
no.
No, that he could not.
Yeah,
he could not. Todd
Mata do that last year? No, he couldn't.
I don't think so.
No, because that was an administrative role.
I don't have time to look that up, but man, I'd like to. Who can coach?
Armand Hill, right? He's the guy that can do some stuff, right?
You know what? I'd say yes. I don't know what his specific title is, but yeah, I think that he is one.
Well, if you remember, we talked to Mike Woodson last year. He says he's a guy that gets on the floor and he works with guys, and he's a hands-on guy too. And there's something to be said for that. A former, Indiana guard, and I mean, I don't know. Leal didn't get much better. I thought Geronimo had more opportunities. He showed certainly in that Wyoming game. Craig Galloway, I think, got better, but had some injury issues. So I think guys are improving, but you'd like to see a little more of it, certainly. And we didn't see the perimeter skills from Trace for whatever reason. If he had the red light from shooting, or they weren't in that role. But I think that next year will be a telling year because it'll be year 2, and we'll see if certain guys make growth. It'd be nice to see. Anthony Leal was a Mr. Basketball for a reason. It'd be nice to see him make some growth.
And he was Mr. Basketball because he played on a team that didn't lose, but he played on he was going to Indiana. I'm not saying this bad about Anthony, but he was not the best player in the state.
Well,
he won Mr. Basketball.
Jaden Ivey was, but he played at the private school, right? La Lumiere and stuff. They weren't eligible. They weren't eligible to be,
It wasn't just Jaden Ivey. It's not just Jaden. Go back and look at the guys who graduated in that year and where all they went to college. Just go look at the All-Star team.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference between Indiana and Kentucky. When I said about players a minute ago, when you look at Indiana's all-star roster, every one of those guys will be going to a Division I school. Every one. Kentucky, no, it's not going to be it. So there's that. John's telling us we got to wrap up. So there's that. I never did find. Here we go. NCAA approves waiver allowing more court time with college basketball staff members. All right. College basketball teams will be allowed to have a little more on-court interaction. I'm trying to get there too fast. Allows 2 non-coaching members of any college basketball program to conduct instructional on-court activities. But who are they? I'd like to know who that is. But anyway, I'll dig through there and find that. But yes, and I think that in the future, this summer, there will be an announcement of someone added to the staff that will make Hoosier fans extraordinarily happy. And that's all I'm going to say. So people that think you know stuff, there are so many times you know stuff and you can't talk about it for whatever reason. But I think that announcement, if it happens, I know it'll make Hoosier fans happy. Hey, it was another great day. Fun time, Kevin. I hope you had a good time. Mike DeCourcy, always fun as well. Most importantly, you guys, man, without you all, there's nothing for us to do. John, the producer, as well. But appreciate you guys coming and showing up and showing out every day, as always. We're back tomorrow to do this again. Looking forward to it. Bob Kravitz on, Rick Bozich. Also, the executive director for Hoosiers for Good, the NIL consortium for Indiana, will be joining us to further explain what they've done and what they're doing. So we've got that going for you, Kevin. What you have coming up, man?
Yeah,
quickly, in 10 seconds.
Yeah. Spring football stuff and stuff on NIL. So
there you go. Make sure you give him a follow and me as well on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. Go to thehoosier.com and sign up if you haven't. Complete coverage of all the recruiting actions going on. We got guys that are out all over the place at each and every one of those tournaments. More coverage than anyone, as a matter of fact. Back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana